is our dedication to each other, and our unselfishness, and our willingness to maximize our skills in the context of the game.
So what was the difference between the 73 team that won and the 72 team that didn't?
The 73 team had a little more versatility. With the addition of Jerry Lucas, we had a center who was mobile and a great outside shooter who brought the game right out. With the addition of Earl, we ended up with the best backcourt in basketball probably ever. And, so in that sense, we're also a deep team. Dean Meminger, for example, in the seventh game of the Eastern playoffs in Boston, he is one of the decisive players in that game.
What is it like that people remember this 40 years ago?
What's what?
Does it seem like it was 40 years ago?
Every morning I get up, it seems like, it might be 40 years.
So before last night, I know you guys had a dinner together, but before that, had this group ever gotten back together in the last 40 years?
Yeah, we got together about 3 or 4 years ago.
Here?
And, in New York, and we had our evening in the back room of the Tribeca Grill, and we began at 6 and ended at midnight.
Everybody show for that one too, the same group here?
We just had 7. We had Willis and Earl and Clyde and Barnett and Jackson and the Busher kids and Willis.
When this group comes back together, how would you describe it, or what is it like when you have a group that won a title to come together?
I think when we're together, there's a lot of love in the room because we've shared so much, and we've stayed together over the years. Whenever I had a political event, I'd ask Earl or Willis or DeBuscher, they'd always show. They never said no.
Bill, as you get further and further away from those years, do the exploits seem even greater than they were, or do you really don't have those memories?
Well, I have very fond memories of standing in Madison Square Garden with my fists in the air, knowing we were the best in the world. And then 3 years later, I'm jumping in Willis's arms in L.A. when we were ready to clinch and realizing there were still 2 seconds on the clock.
That's right.
What do you think about this current team? What do you think about this current team?
I haven't really seen him play that much. I mean, I certainly have learned to like to win, which I think is the first step of any team.
You've been fairly skeptical. I remember hearing you on NPR a year ago talking about Carmelo, being a little skeptical of whether he was the kind of starter to lead his team all the way. What is it about his game that you do or don't like at this stage?
I think he's a great player. I mean, I think a team is a team, and he's a great player that just anchors the team. And, I haven't seen enough games. I've seen him play a couple of times, and he's got great skills.
How would you guys have done with a three-point line? Would it have messed you up, or would it have you had some great shooters?
Well, I got 2 responses there.
Okay.
First of all, thank God we didn't have the three-point line, because I think it messes up the flow, right? When we played, the game is about finesse, you play with your feet. Now it's about strength, and you play with your upper body. And so, with that said, Lucas figured he'd be leading the league in scoring if we had a three-point line.
After winning 2 in 4 years, could you imagine that it would be 40 years and another one still hasn't come?
Once a Knick fan, always a Knick fan. And for 40 years, we've been suffering Knick fans. And, I was here the 7th game in '96 with my daughter, and I thought we were going to win it that year. I was with Patrick, and we lost. Akeem played an incredible game. That's as close as we've got.
How much of a different feeling was it winning it the second time than the first?
Well, for me, the most fun I ever had playing basketball was 1973. 70, was a lot of dedication to get to the top. But in 73, the group of guys we had just was incredible. I tell the story. We had a little play that they ran for me called DF, which was I'd run. Here's the center. Here's the basket. I'd run my man over here and then pop back, and the ball would come back to me, and I have 3 seconds. So the key was to shoot. So the key was getting my man over the top, where he'd be stuck because the center would block him. And so Lucas and I used the unknown tongue on the other players. And the unknown tongue was, I'd say, "Hey, Jerry, how come I look at this over here?" And he would look at me and say, "No, hana, and point the other way. And occasionally the guy would go there and I'd duck right.
That's very
You
funny.
guys, they're playing Milwaukee tonight, which kind of brings us back to that great comeback.
Yeah.
Was that bolster this team?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it also, I think, solidified Earl's position in the team as not only a member, but, realized that even in the mix that we had, that there was still room for Earl the Pearl. And that night he took over the game and we came back. I think that's the interesting thing about the team. We had a lot of different ways to play. And that night also gave us a lot of confidence. We began that year with a lot of injuries. And that game was saying, well, we're in another season.
Bill, you had a lot of matchups
And I
again.
was always very happy after that, too, because people started leaving the garden. And I must have been 100 people who come up to me all the time saying, "Oh, I wish I shouldn't have left the garden."
You always had a lot of great matchups against guys like Marin and Reardon and Havlicek. There were a lot of 6'5" guys. But then there was Bob Love, 6'8".
Yeah,
Who was the toughest guy for you to play against?
Havlicek.
Why?
Because
Movement.
he constantly moved, and the Celtics got him the ball exactly at the right place. He'd have his hand here, I'd have my hand here defending, and the ball literally was 6 inches away from his hand and would go to his hand.
Who would throw it to him usually? Was that KC or? Yeah, right.
No, not KC, it would be Cowens or Silas or one of them, or Don Nelson.
Can we get your take, I'm sorry, on Rutgers, Georgia situation?
Not really. I haven't looked at it very carefully.
I mean, they had the AD resign today, and people say the president needs to go too.
President of the university?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because? Why?
Well, because he should have, acted quicker, I guess.
Should have fired the coach.
And got rid of the coach sooner.
He claims not to have seen the
That to me
video.
sounds to me like a media storm. I mean, I don't know. I only thing I saw was the coach yelled at his players,
Threw some basketballs at
threw
him.
some basketballs out.
Right. You played for Van Bredikoff. Did he ever curse?
Yeah, right. I mean,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
let's be real. We're
Yeah.
all men.
You talked about the Bucks team, and then you went to the finals against the Celtics the next year. Is that?
No, they went to the finals against Baltimore, against Earl.
Yeah,
We lost the
in
seventh game
74.
here.
In 74.
On 74.
74, they played the Celtics in the finals. And those three teams, I mean, those were some great teams. What do you remember about those Bucks teams you won against?
Well, the team that I had was Kareem and Oscar and Bobby Landers. They were really good players. And that's why when we came back, that was a big win. I was reflecting today about the seventh game in 1971. We won the year before. We were once again in Baltimore. It was once again the seventh game. We were behind by 1 point. We had the ball with about 6 seconds. The play was for Frazier. The ball went into Frazier. They double teamed. He had only one place to go, which was the corner where I was. And so I shot the ball, and Wes Unseld just nicked it, right? And so we lost. And you could see all of us. We lost. Now, fast forward, get into politics, you run the first time, I had to end up raising $1.3 million as opposed to Corzine 63 million. But he had to get to $1.3 million. I called Abe Cole and I said, "Can you do a fundraiser for me?" He said, "Sure." So I'm then elected to the Senate. And literally in the first couple of months, I get a present. It's obviously some kind of picture. And I open the present. It's a picture of that exact moment with Frazier and me with our heads down, Jack Marin going like this, scoreboard saying 92 to 91, and he puts a little note on it and says, in case you get a big head in the center, remember this.
Bill, this team has, I think, 5 guys over 35. Got Jason Kidd playing.
Yeah.
How have things changed as far as how these athletes get trained and maintain a high level of figure?
I think that they condition themselves. When I played, you play the game and then you take off. Scott, you play the game and then you take off. I wouldn't touch a ball from May until July. And then I had to get back in shape. And I think now, because they realize that they can play that long, if they constantly keep their body in shape. Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, Duncan. It's unheard of.
What?
It wasn't even my time. Will was the closest thing to it.
I'm quite frankly of the age when the very first time I ever had an experience in sports as a fan, where my heart actually dropped into my belly, was on that Unseld tip.
Yeah.
I mean, we were all sitting at home just, what? I mean, whatever you felt, the fan base,
Well, we had
the heart
great-
literally dropped.
We had great fans.
It was
millions
amazing.
of people, not millions, but
No,
a lot of people told me about listening to the game. They kept a transistor radio under their pillow.
Absolutely.
Listen to the game. And so that was the great thing about playing in New York. You knew you had people who were with you that would share every emotion, which was, the thrill of winning,
Right.
but also, the crush of losing.
when did you begin to think, or have you ever thought that this team or these 2 seasons, 69 and 73, 70 and 73, were iconic teams, as opposed to just a personal experience?
Well,
Iconic is a different scenario.
What people don't realize is 3 out of 4 years we were in the finals. There was that one moment when we lost to Baltimore, where we would have been in 4 years. And I think when we lost in the finals against LA in 1972, with the new team, with Lucas and Monroe added, we said, came in the locker room and said, next year we're going for it. Same way in 1969, when Cassie broke his leg, or broke his ankle, they moved me to forward. And we had 5 players who played over 40 minutes a game for probably 39 games. So the unit gelled.
Was that when McGuire was coaching?
No,
Was that Red already?
Red took over.
Okay.
Red.
Why do you think it is that the way the game is played today is pretty much so much different? Everybody you talk to, they say, we're unselfish, we were unselfish, we don't care who scored. Now everything is set up for the stars. There's a star on the team. I mean, basketball seemed to have been better to watch back then and more, more
Well,
fun.
you're talking to somebody who's prejudiced about that. I think it's better to watch because, as I said, it's about finesse. You play with your feet. Now it's about strength, and you play with your upper body. Back then, there was no three-point rule, so the object of the game was get the easiest shot closest to the basket with the maximum movement. And now, you do a pick and roll on one side, the 6 guys stand at 30 feet, and you throw it out. And they're great shooters at 30 feet, but there are not a whole lot of players that can shoot the mid-range jumper off the dribble. And you had to do that when we played because you never knew if your movement where you were going to get the ball.
Bill, your experience is very similar to a lot of the young kids who are coming into this league when they're 20, 21 years old or 19. You were on the cover of sports magazines when you were at Princeton. The whole crescendo of Bradley at Princeton was a big deal. What advice would you give to kids today when you're getting all that publicity so soon in your career, and how to deal with that? How'd you deal with it?
Well, it's very interesting. I dealt with it. I had a certain perspective on it when I was in college. I knew I had work to do, academics, so I took it for what it was. But when I went to Oxford, really one of the reasons was I kind of wanted to get away from it. And then I came back and played, big hoopla, right? The first game I played,
Eddie Miles.
well, yeah, but in the warm-ups, every time I touched the ball, 18-5 in the old Madison Square Garden started roaring. 18-5, right? And then I was playing guard at the time, and probably within 10 games, they turned on me because I was too slow, etc. So literally, as you